What is up, everybody? This is your boy AJ Trip, and this is my top 10 things that were around 20 years ago that aren't now. Now, I'm taking some liberties with that title because basically you know what it means, because there are things on this list that are still around, but they're around sparingly. You may see it. You may see one, whatever. But you may see it here. You may see it, 2 years later or whatever. But they are around. But it just wasn't as prevalent as they was back in the day. Back in the day, 20 years ago, they were. You could almost find these things anywhere. So. That's basically what this is. Things that you could find almost anywhere 20 years ago, you can barely find right now. So that's what this top 10 list is going to be about. I think you guys are going to enjoy this. Plus, all of the younger generation out there, you're going to be like, really? You might even say, what the hell is that? And of course, all of the older people like myself are going to say, I remember that, man. I can't remember. I can't imagine. I had one of those. So it's gonna be a good nostalgia trip, and for all the old folks and for all the young folks, it's gonna be like blow your mind type thing, maybe. So let's get it off with the top 10 things that were around 20 years ago that aren't now. Number 10, dial-up internet. Now, right now we have like a lot of high-speed broadband type internet, but back in the day, the way you would dial up is that you would go through the phone line. You would go through the phone line, and I know for me, when we finally got the internet, we didn't even have a second phone line. We used the original phone line. And then we finally turned it around and got a second phone line so that we could, get our phone calls while if somebody was on the internet. So, boom, the dollar, and you always heard the more or less. It was basically AOL. I think there was some other dial-up started, but AOL was the biggest one. And of course, some people would say, I think AOL is like irrelevant. I don't know necessarily that's the case. I know their messenger, I think, went away a year or so ago. AIM, the messenger, but you still can have an email address. I know I still have an AOL email address. That's my main one, in fact. But yeah, so dial-up internet was the way that you would get onto the web, and you would dial up, and then you would get on. You're welcome. You've got mail, and there was also too. They got to the point to where AOL also had people. You could have like Samuel L. Jackson, and you could have Hillary Swank, or there's a bunch of other things. Tell you can say welcome. You've got mail. They would say it in another way. So. Yeah, I think dial-up internet was the way to go. But of course, nowadays we have high-speed internet. It is broadband. It is Wi-Fi. There was no Wi-Fi back in the day. And even though you still can get it through the phone line, you still can. Most of the people, I think, get it through like the broadband cable type thing. So, yeah. So back in the day, 20 years ago, if you wanted to get on the internet, you had to go through a dial-up connection, a phone line into the phone jack into your computer. So number 10 is dial-up internet. Number 9, phone books. Now I'm pretty sure they still make phone books. And when I'm talking about phone books, I'm talking about the yellow pages, the white pages, things like that. Back in the day, you would get them seasonally. Every quarter, winter, spring, summer, fall, you would get an updated phone book. And that updated yellow pages and updated white pages. At least here in Chicago. I'm not sure about across the country, but that's how it was here in Chicago. And you would get, a phone book. And oh man, it was us. It was, and in that phone book you can find numbers of people. You can find numbers of places. You would use the white pages were basically like residents. It was like so and so and so and so, and the numbers were listed for people if you wanted it. If you wanted your number listed, if you didn't have to do it. I know there were some times when they would give like your name and then your address and then your phone number, and you could like figure it out. So if you wanted to stalk somebody, you wouldn't stalk them on Facebook or on Google or anything like that. You stalk them with the white pages, and the yellow pages were for businesses. If you need to go to a car shop, if you needed to go to a mechanic, you would use if you needed to find the closest hamburger joint, you would go to yellow page. If you needed to find a place to get your your on your roof fixed or your gutters cleaned, you would go to the yellow pages, and you would find those there, and then you would call and everything like, or you would they had the addresses too, so you would go out and talk to somebody. So and again, now these days it's not that it's with the advent of Google and other search engines, there's like no need for that, because you can just say where's the nearest exterminator, or who's the best exterminator. You go on Yelp too, who's the best exterminator, where can I find somebody to clean my gutters, and where can I find somebody to to move, who are the best movers and what's their rates, and you can do all of that on Google and these other search engines. So there's almost like no need for phone books anymore in either way, the yellow pages or the white pages. Now, I'm speaking from a Chicago point of view. I have not seen phone books in a long time. The last time I saw a phone book was I moved out of my uncle's house almost 5 years ago, and he would still get phone books. So maybe I lived in an apartment building, but I even think there might have been, when I first moved here, there might have been phone books delivered here. So I'm not sure, but I'm almost certain that there are nobody out there, you guys watching or anybody out there, nobody has a phone book anyway. If you do, it's probably an old one. So number 9, phone books. Number 8, maps. And again, this is the advent of Google and things and your phones, your tablets or whatever. I'm almost sure that 20 years ago, if you had a car, in your car was a map. In your car was a map. And that's the way that if you were driving out of state, or if you were going somewhere, in your state, but maybe in another part of your state or whatever you were doing, if you were traveling, you used the map. And then we got to the point where, and I would even say that maybe maps would even be even more than 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, with the advent of the internet, we had this thing called MapQuest, and I think a lot of people were using MapQuest. And then I think a couple years later, the GPS came into effect. But I think MapQuest was the one that started the downfall of the map, and then the GPS came in and that took the junk out of it. And then once the smartphone happened and the tablet came around, it was done. It was done. There's no need for a map because then you can get the directions on your phone and have the directions and have your GPS on your phone or on your tablet, and it was just done. So, but yeah, I would say 20 years ago, maybe even more, you still like if you had a car, you were traveling, you had a map. Maybe you didn't have the map in your car, but maybe you had the map like you had a map in your house, and then when you would start to travel, you would take that map, get in your car, and then you would drive off. So, but I think I'm sure there are still a few people, especially of the older generation, that have maps. But I would say that maps have become probably obsolete, as Matt Hardy would say, in this day and age. So, number 8 is maps. Number 7, phone booth / payphones. I mean, again, I don't see these anywhere. I really don't. I am surprised. There is a train stop here in Chicago, Clark and Lake, and at that train stop there are 2 payphones, and I saw this about 4 or 5 years ago. It was the same thing, maybe even a little bit longer than that, whenever it was. But damn, there's a payphone there. And then like probably about 6 months, sometime in the past 6 months, I was on the other side of the track waiting for the other part of the train to go the other way, the other direction. And then I saw a payphone over there. I was like, damn. So this is I think this is the only place in Chicago that have payphones. From what I can see, because again, we're talking about cell phones now. Cell phones were big, and even back in the day when the cell phones started coming, there were still payphones because not everybody could afford or everybody could get a cell phone. And nowadays, everybody has cell phones, and in some points of fashion, some people only have cell phones. That's their phone. This is their cell phone. So yeah, and then don't even get started like with the phone booths. I don't even think Chicago had phone booths. I'm trying to remember if I've ever seen a phone booth in Chicago. Now, there were pay phones, but I don't even know if Chicago ever had a phone booth in my lifetime. So I don't even know. So, and yeah, I would assume that everywhere else there were no pay phones or phone booths or anything like that. So, yeah, man, I'm telling you, you guys are like, and reason why it's a pay phone, because you had to pay to use it. That's right, you had to pay to use it. In case you wonder why it was called a pay phone, you dropped. It was, for the longest time, it was 35 cents. 35 cents, a nickel. It was a dime and a quarter. And then at some point it went away, and I think it became 50 cents. And they kept raising it, and that may be one of the reasons why it started. Well, it is the cell phones also were the main reason. But if they would have turned it, and they would have turned it to like, where you could use a payphone, maybe somewhere for 25 cents or less, I think there would still be maybe more payphones out there, right? Because I know this. I have a cell phone. I know a lot of people still have cell phones. I'm not saying that, but there could always be a time when maybe you don't have the right connection, right? You're in a bad cell place. You're this and that, and you need to make a phone call. And if there's a pay phone there, and you only had to pay 10 cents, you'd use it. Although I guess with that theory, if it was a really big emergency, you would pay anything, to use. If you were that big of a pickle, you would use anything for the cell phone. So, maybe that doesn't make a lot of sense, but nevertheless, you guys get what I'm saying. So, number 7 on the list of top 10 things that were around 20 years ago that aren't now, lest they're just sparingly, at the Clark and Lake stop in Chicago, Illinois. Payphones/phone booths. Number 6, landline phones. Now this kind of goes back into the last one, right? Because everybody is basically having their cell phone be their main phone, so that they're always with them. So that you had your landline phone at home, so that was your home phone. But so then you'd have a cell phone, so that if you were out on the go. But now, more likely than not, with all of these plans and everything like that, family plans and all these other things, your cell phone is your home phone. It's your cell phone. It's everything. I know for me now me personally, I would still enjoy a landline phone. And I would say that if I had the ability to have a landline phone, I would. Trust me. If I would have a landline phone to go along with my cell phone, because I think, for me, again, because I'm an older person, I just like that. It's I kind of think the cell phone should just be for it should just be for that. It should just be like for on the go. It should be used for what it was originally used for. If you were out and about on the go and you needed somebody to get in touch with you, it would be for that. And now we use cell phones for everything. But that's what I think that's something that I would do, is that, if I had the ability, I would get a landline phone. That being said, now this one is a great tricky one, because I'm sure you have seen a landline phone before, because this isn't a big thing. Now, when I was coming up with this list, I was trying to figure out, in which directions in which places I wanted to slot them. And one reason why I wanted to I was thinking about maybe putting landline phone lower on the list, because there's still a lot of them out there, and there really are, because even like the younger generations, if you go over your grandmothers or your grandparents or your uncles and your aunts and something like that, I'm sure they have a landline phone. So you've seen them before. But I was doing some research about it, and actually, surprisingly enough, it's like 70% of households don't have a landline phone. Back in like 20 years ago, it was almost 85% of households. So you're talking about 20 years ago, or I think maybe the thing was 25 years ago, right? It was 25 years ago that 85% of households had a landline phone. And nowadays, we're talking about 75% that don't have. That is a major swing there. So that's why I decided to put it up at number 6. Because even though I'm sure you have seen a landline phone before, and you know the whole deal, and you've seen all of them, just that swing right there, I think made it so that it deserved to be, not at the bottom. It deserved to be laying somewhere in the middle. Maybe some of you guys even think it may even be higher when I talk about my, when I go through the next 5. But yeah. That's incredible. So number 6 on this list of top 10 things that were around 20 years ago that aren't around now. Landline phone. How about 5? Pagers. Now, pager, beeper, whatever you want to call it. This is where, again, and my father had a pager, and you could page him, and what this was, if you guys don't know, this had its own number. So what you would do is that you would call this number, and then there was like this automated voice where it would say, it would tell you to say something or to put in your own number. And then what that would do is once it would send that message that you said, or it would send the number that you typed in to this device, and then it would vibrate or it would beep, and then the person would take it off and look at it and see what the message would say or what the number would say. And this was big with doctors. This was very big with doctors, because then doctors would get the page from the hospital, and it would be or from their patient, and it would be it would say 911, which means it was an emergency, right? And then they would call the number, figure out what's wrong, and then go to the hospital. If they weren't already there. Back in the day, I don't know if this is big now, but back in the day, a lot of doctors worked. They didn't work like at the hospital all the time. They usually stayed at home, and they had a home office, and then they would go to the hospital for many things. You basically saw it on the Cosby Show. If you ever watched the Cosby Show, you saw that Heathcliff had a home office, and he saw a lot of people at his home, and he would go to the doctor afterwards. But I know that's kind of a touchy subject now with everything with all of the stuff that's going on with Bill Cosby, but I'm just using that as an example. Anyway, so yeah, and that's what happened. So it was big with doctors, but other people starting to have beepers too. It was also very big in the gangs, because I think there were a lot of gangbangers who had beepers, and then they would have codes sent to them, so that if so to let them know if the police were coming, if their shipment was coming in, or if they had anything. It was also used by gang members, and then for their nefarious activities. And then also regular people had them too. Because again, you didn't have this was a little bit before the cell phone came in. Once the cell phone came in, you didn't. Pagers basically went the way of side. But if you had a pager, right? Again, you would have a pager, and let's just say that you were out and about, you were working, and and then you have your pager, and your something happened, something tragic happened. Your family could page you, and they would page you the phone number, and then they would or they would send a message. Call me back immediately, 911, and then it would be for that emergency situation. Now you would get paged for other things too, but it wouldn't be emergency. You were supposed to use 911, whether it was doing the message or with the phone number. Because I think what you could do, you could put in your phone number, and then afterwards put in 911, or you could tell them that it's an emergency, and then the system would send your phone number with 911 in parentheses. I'm not certain on that, but I believe that's how it worked. I never had a pager. I know my dad had one, like I said earlier, Yeah, I would page my dad when I wanted to get in touch with him. Now, of course, we just have cell phones, and I should, I got to remember to call him Sunday for Happy Father's Day. So yeah, and that's how it was. So, and it was a incredible piece of technology. Once again, once the advent of the cell phone came along, you pretty much didn't need the pagers or the beepers or anything like that, because then you can just call them and you can talk to them that way. So, or send a text message. So they were pretty prevalent back in the day. So number 5 on the list, pagers. Number 4, answering machines. Now this is a tricky one because answering machines are almost similar to voicemail. It's almost similar. Actually, it's very similar, actually. I would just say the difference is voicemail is more digital. The answering machines were more analog. And what I mean by that was that you actually had a tape, a cassette tape that you would put in the thing, and it would record your messages on the tape, and you can rewind and fast forward and do all of those type of things. Voicemail is not like that. Voicemail is more digital, and it's not, and it has nothing to do with any type of cassette tape or anything. So that's why I decided to put answering machines on this list, and I put it very high because it is true. Because once voicemail came along, it took away answering machines. Now, it did make it easier for messages to be deleted by mistake, because if on an answering machine, the message, of course, it was recorded on the tape, so you'd have to rewind the tape and then have someone call, and leave a message, and then it will record over the other message. This one was so easy because you could just delete and hit a couple buttons and do delete on the voicemail. Now, I never had an answering machine, but by the time everything came around, it was the voicemail activated. Yeah, it went to voicemail. So I had seen answering machines. We never had an answering machine, but once we started to get to the point where we wanted to get our messages, it had already gone from this analog answering machine to this digital voicemail machine. And the voicemail machine, it was actually basically, for the most part, put right into the phone. It was put right into the phone. And what you do it, and then there would be like this light, and the light would blink when you had a message. It was like everything. It was like it'd have caller ID, right? These phones back in the day, these were landline phones. And back in the day, it would have caller ID. It would have the voicemail thing with a light to tell you the voicemail, and it would have. And you can do all these other crazy things too, like star 69 was like, if someone called and hung up, you can star 69 and then call the number right back. Or if you did want to call somebody and hang up, you could block your number by hitting star 67, and it would block your number so it wouldn't show up on the caller ID, and you couldn't star 69 them back. They couldn't star 69 you back. So it was everything. It was everything. Everything was all encompassed with this. But back to answering machines and voicemail, and I think once voicemail took over, answering machines just totally went out the thing. Now, I did see where businesses businesses, some of them still do use answering machines, and I was actually surprised at that. That there's still some business out there that use answering machines. Um, just because they feel it's the better way. You know, but again, most everybody use businesses, civilians, residents, whatever. They have voicemails. And of course, now with cell phone, you can have an answering machine because everybody has a cell phone. You can have an answering machine on your cell phone. You have to have voicemail. So everybody uses voicemail nowadays. Answering machines are once again pretty much obsolete. So that's why number 4 on my list are answering machines. Number 3, floppy disk. Now, if you were working on a computer, if you were in school and you were writing an essay, or if you were doing something else on the computer, and you wanted to or even if you played games, whatever you wanted to do, the way you would save your work would be on a floppy disk, and it was incredible, and it is amazing because nowadays, of course, we have like the USB ports, and we have USB drives, and we have backup things. We have Google Drive, we have OneDrive, we have so many other things to storage things to save our work on. That it is kind of amazing to look back and think that back in the day, I had to save my work on a floppy disk. That I just couldn't. In fact, I just couldn't save it on the computer. I just couldn't save it on the computer. And again, go to my thumb drive, go to Google Drive online, go to OneDrive, or go to like the storage system, the portable hard drive, whatever you out there. I couldn't go to that and do that. I couldn't bring it up on the same computer. That I had to use the floppy drive, and the floppy drive was when you really think about it, it was not a great way to store stuff. It really wasn't. It was not, and you had to store everything on there. You had to store your text files. If you were like an artist, you had to store your art was had to be on there. Videos could be on there, just like USB thumb drives or any other ways. So that's what you had to save your work on. And when you think about it now, it is kind of amazing the fact that we had to do that with floppy disks. And I was surprised that these other forms of storage wasn't created when the computer was created. That wasn't created. That it took a while for people, or it took a while for us to even be able to save it on the computer. That was crazy. Or to make a copy of it. Maybe you could save it on the computer, but if you wanted a copy on it, you had to, like if you was doing homework, and then you could save it on the computer. But if you needed to take it to school, you had to put it on a floppy drive, or a floppy disk. So that's incredible. So, and I had so many of them. Because I had a thing of floppy disks, and I had it all labeled like for school. Like, this is where my math work is. This is where my English is. This is where my Spanish is. I always had them on, and something like that. So, and I'm so glad that that's not the case now. But now you can save them on the computer. You can do, like, again, Google Drive, all of those things. You're going to have all these backups. So that was incredible. So number 3 are floppy disks. bet the pictures y'all young cats are like a floppy a floppy disk, and y'all made all types of floppy disk jokes, and believe me, there were jokes made back then as well. How about number 2? The Walkman / Discman. Now, again, nowadays you got your phone, you got your music on your phone, and whether you have it like on a Spotify app, or it's on Amazon, you have the Amazon app, or you use Google Play, whatever iTunes, whatever music storage system that you use, you have it with you on your phone more than likely or not. But back in the day, if you wanted to have your music, you had to get a Walkman for cassette tapes, or a Discman for CDs, and it is just incredible. And again, you think about and you don't have them anymore. You do not have. I think they still might make Walkmans. They don't make Discmans anymore. Well, because CDs are obsolete, nowadays. So you don't. So there are no Discmans. Or if there are Discmans, they're not like any of the Discmans from back in the day when I had them, when they had everything on them. You had the AM, FM radio, and then you had the things where, and you have skip protection, so that because obviously when you're walking and you playing the CD, it would skip, and then the music would be going, and then it would skip, like that. And then they created one where you had skip protection, so that you could walk or run, and you could have the song wouldn't skip, and it was just incredible. It was a great piece of technology that, I'm going to be honest with you, I really wish was still around. I kind of do wish the Discman was really still around, because that was a great piece of technology. I enjoyed it. I always got Discmans. Once I realized I could get a Discman, because I had Walkmans, and my main thing was for the AM FM radio. I like listening to the AM FM radio. Obviously nowadays, again, with smartphones, you can listen to your favorite AM and FM radio stations with all different types of apps and everything like that. If not, one specific app for one specific station or anything like that. Like, for instance, like I got the ESPN radio app on my phone, and I listen to ESPN Chicago all the time. I got the iHeart radio app where I listen to 103.5 Kiss FM here in Chicago. Those are really only two radio stations I listen to. But so I have them on my phone. But there are other things. They're like a TuneIn app. And there's something called Next Radio. All of these apps, and it's for where you can listen to radio on your phone. So they're all incredible. But yeah, back in the day though, if I wanted to listen to the radio, I had to listen to the AM and FM Walkman or Discman, and then you had to your headphones. Your headphones were with their antenna, and it would also be so hard too, because if you rode the bus, it was hard because all of that metal. The metal would interfere with your signal sometimes, especially on the AM side. It would interfere with your signal sometimes. So sometimes you get like static and everything like that. So, and that brings me back to the days. And actually, I still at some point I don't have the Walkman or Discman or anything like that, but I still had like this little small tiny AM FM radio, so that when if my phone has a low charge or something like that, and I need to save it, I take that with me, and I try to listen to, if I'm going to listen to the radio, and it's still entertaining, train and bus. It's sometimes it's a workmanship to hold it the exact right, especially if you're going downtown too. Because usually when I'm doing this, I'm going downtown to school, and you have all that steel downtown, and then all the steel on the bus. So, you know, whatever. But it is absolutely just incredible. So, the number 2 thing that were around 20 years ago that isn't now, the Walkman / Discman. And finally, number 1 are Blockbuster videos and other video rental places. Now, I know that, you know, there are like places like Redbox, and they have these Redbox, and they sit Redbox outside of grocery stores or outside of malls or something like that, and you can get your DVD rentals from there. But you know, so but back in the day, Blockbuster Video was a place to go. If you wanted to go see a movie, you could go there. You sign up for a card. Rent. If you wanted to go play a game, you sign up for a card. You could rent the game. You could rent the movie. You had it for like 2 or 3 days, and then you went to take it back. And then once Blockbuster got so big, there were like 2 or 3 stores that tried to compete with them. And then I'm almost sure that in every city there was a local version that would compete with, you know, Blockbuster locally as well. So that if you wanted to rent a video, you wanted to rent a movie, anything like that, you could take it from there. So that's not only, the picture you're seeing is of Blockbuster Video, but this is basically in the entire video rental service type thing, store. So you don't see him anymore. At least I don't see him anymore. I was looking the other day at my and the thing, I think I still have my Blockbuster Video card. I still have that somewhere, like in my wallet for some reason. And I don't use it because there are no Blockbuster Videos here in Chicago anymore. They don't. They're all been closed down. I don't think there's a lot more in this country. So it is fascinating. What happened to it, and again, I think what killed Blockbuster Video and all the video rent stores was the advent of all of these online places, Netflix, Hulu, things like that. There was always HBO and there was always Showtime. So, and the Cinemax and all of those movie channels, they were always around, but still Blockbuster Video was still there. But I think once Netflix and Hulu and those things came around, that's what really stopped it. That's what really killed those things, and maybe even Amazon too. Because once you could order the video from Amazon, order your DVD from Amazon, it's like, well, I gotta go out. I order from Amazon. So I think all of those combined is what killed the video rental store, concept. And then in that case, it killed Blockbuster Video as well. So, but man, that was something special. That was something really to think about. So, yeah, I can't believe it's there are no one there. But yeah. And it was so popular too. It was so popular. Blockbuster Video was, and it's the fact that it's no longer around is amazing. So number 1 on my list of top 10 things that were around 20 years ago that are not Blockbuster Video and the vintage video rental store concept. So that's my list, and what I wanted to do was really quick here is my motivation for this was the Toys R Us story. It was 2 things. It was a Toys R Us story. There are not a lot of Toys R Us places anymore, and then there was some things like they were closing down in England, and there's the ones that are still here open in America, those are closing down. And then I also saw that Sears were closing down stores too. So I was just like, wow. I think back in the day, and I think about the day, I'd always go to Toys R Us, and I would always go to Sears, and I would always go to these places to get my stuff. And my mom always went to Sears to get get her stuff, get her appliances, her televisions, everything. I think Sears, basically, she got everything we had when we were young from Sears. She had a Sears card. So, and even though Sears is still gonna do stuff online, sell stuff online, it's just kind of amazing that there won't be a actual store to go to get whatever, get your TV, to get your mattress, to get your stove, your refrigerator. It's kind of sad, and it's kind of also sad that no, Toys R Us haven't been around for about, wow, maybe even 10, 15 years. I'm trying to think. One of the reasons why I didn't put it on this list is because I think it was about, actually maybe in like early 2000s when the Toys R Us here in Chicago started going away. They were either turned into Kids R Us or they were just gone away. So I was like, so it's like that's why I didn't put it on this list. And Sears, there are still Sears stores. Again, at least here in Chicago, but they are going to start closing maybe by the end of this year. They're going to be kind of, if things don't turn around, they might have to close. So, but that's why these two went on the list. But that was the motivation for this video, and it was just kind of amazing because I remember 20 years ago, all of these things were just they were so prevalent and so relevant, and it's amazing to think that here we are 20 years later, and you could basically have none of these things around here. None of them. None of them are gone. Now they're in different iterations, like I said, with the answering machine. The answering machine went turned into voicemail. Just went from analog to digital, and like you said, the Walkman Discman went from that to like MP3 player, and now to like having an app on your phone to listen to your music and everything like that. It's the landline phone, the cell phone, advice, and everything like that, etc., etc., etc. But still, it's just kind of amazing to not have those things around. So, anyway, that's my list. Post your comments down below. Tell me what you guys think. Was there any other things that you think I forgot? Are you older like me and you remember those things and like, wow, this brought me back, or anything like that? So just let me know down in the comment section. Alright, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching. This is your boy AJ Tripp signing off. As always, be good to each other, y'all. Be careful out there. And I am out.